Edition 21, The Orpheus Ledger. Deep within the catacombs of Salzburg, Grigori discovers an encrypted manuscript known only as the Orpheus Ledger, rumored to be the first record of the dream scribes. An ancient circle of artists who painted the future into being. Luca begins to suffer vivid visions of events he has not lived, yet remembers. Each entry in the ledger seems to rewrite their past and hint at a betrayal that hasn't occurred. Or has. Edition 22, The Whispering Ledger. The air in Vienna had a bite to it, colder than Luca expected. In a private suite above the Vienna Opera House, he sat across from Katharina Mertz, the elusive archivist of the Schwartz Fund, a ledger of stolen wartime art no one dared admit existed. She pushed a silk-gloved hand across the table, revealing a crimson-bound book. "This is what they've all been dying for," she whispered. "It doesn't just lead to the Da Vinci, Luca. It tracks every transaction Mr. Grigori ever falsified." Alessandro listened from the corner, his gaze piercing. "Then it's not just a key. It's a weapon." Below them, the opera crescendoed, but in Luca's mind, only the blood-stained possibilities echoed. Edition 23, The Dagger in Stockholm. The Stockholm safehouse was silent, until gunfire cracked the stillness. Alessandro ducked, pulling Luca into a wine cellar lined with stolen Rembrandts. "Who tipped them off?" Luca spat, breathless. "It wasn't me." Alessandro answered too quickly. They both knew betrayal had crept into their inner circle. And as the wine dripped from a shattered bottle onto a velvet-covered dagger, Luca realized the truth: someone among them had already sold out, for the manuscript, for Grigori, or worse. Edition 24, The Butcher of Berlin. They found him in a meat locker. Former art curator Otto Brandt, now known only in whispers as the Butcher, held secrets from the Nazi era, secrets Luca needed. "I won't talk," Brandt hissed through rotted teeth. "But the ghosts will." Behind him, carved into frozen beef carcasses, were coordinates, and a familiar symbol, the fleur-de-lis cross of Grigori's early family crest. A forgotten alliance resurfaced, ancient and blood-bound. Edition 25, Grigori's Chessboard. In Madrid, Luca stood in front of a giant chessboard made of alabaster and onyx, each piece carved into faces of enemies and allies, some dead, some very much alive. A message played on the wall via projector, Grigori's voice, slow and deliberate. "This is not about art. This is about judgment." Each move Luca made would determine who lived, and who vanished. It was more than a game. It was sentencing. Edition 26, The Lazarus File. In a monastery beneath Prague, Luca opened the Lazarus File. It was a collection of names long presumed dead, agents, smugglers, historians, even Grigori's own twin brother. One name burned brightest, Luca Esposito. "How am I on this?" he whispered. Alessandro paled. "Because you were supposed to die in Venice." Edition 27, The Stolen Horizon. A secret summit in Reykjavik. A war auction in the Arctic Circle. The horizon wasn't land, it was greed incarnate. Grigori's voice returned, broadcast across encrypted channels: "Welcome to the final transaction." They bid on history itself, lost pages of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the blood seal of Napoleon, and the original sketch of Most Larsen. Luca bid last, with a single bullet. Edition 28, The Rusalka Pact. The forests outside St. Petersburg echoed with the cries of something ancient. A pact had been made decades ago, and Luca found himself bound by it. A woman in white emerged from the icy lake, pale, immortal, and holding a medallion marked with Alessandro's birth date. "Your blood is older than your betrayal," she whispered. And the shadows never left Venice. Edition 29, Alessandro's Testament. He confessed everything on an encrypted drive, hidden inside a ceramic urn in Florence. "I never left Grigori." Alessandro's voice rasped. The betrayal wasn't new. It was inherited, written into bloodlines and war. Luca shattered the urn and threw the drive into the Arno River. But some truths don't drown. Edition 30, The Venetian Requiem. They returned to where it began, Venice. Flooded. Silent. Ancient. A ritual was being prepared at San Lazzaro, where Armenian monks once buried manuscripts too sacred for the Vatican. Mr. Grigori waited inside, hands folded over a coffin carved with Luca's name. "One of us must be erased," he said. "Only then does the ledger balance." Edition 31, The American Cipher. New York. Luca stood atop the Chrysler Building with a file encrypted in Da Vinci's geometry and American dollar bills. Inside, coordinates, names, bank codes, all embedded in artwork scattered across national museums. The final key wasn't in Europe. It was here, hidden in plain sight. But as he turned to leave, a woman appeared, identical to someone from Luca's past, someone he'd buried in Berlin. She smiled. "You forgot, Luca. Shadows always follow." Edition 32, The Vault of Echoes. Beneath the streets of Washington, D.C. Inside a forgotten Smithsonian sublevel, Luca and Caterina unlocked a vault sealed since 1945. As the titanium doors groaned open, their lights flickered over frescoes painted on the walls, identical to sketches from Most Larsen, yet older by centuries. Caterina gasped. These were never Da Vinci's. He copied them. Someone, something, came before. Behind a loose brick, a bone flute. Engraved with Grigori's initials. Edition 33, The Glass City. Dubai. Steel, smoke, and gold. Luca entered the Burj Khalifa disguised as an Emirati curator. Inside a penthouse gallery, Grigori's hidden acquisitions glimmered, relics from pharaohs, stolen Vatican scrolls, and a singular object glowing under polarized light, the original contract that birthed the Schwartz Fund. Signed in Venice. Witnessed in blood. Caterina translated aloud, "This is not a fund. It's a covenant." Edition 34, The Hollow Saint. A monastery in Lisbon. The reliquary of St. Justo shattered. The relic inside. A human hand, bronze-wrapped and anointed with gold leaf. DNA matched. Allessandro. Luca stood over the chapel, staring down at a statue bleeding from the eyes. He turned to Caterina. "Allessandro died here. Years ago. Grigori's been using a double. But who's the real traitor then?" She whispered. Edition 35, The Fire Sermon. A secret mass at a burned-down cathedral in Bucharest. Priests in scarlet vestments gathered around a flaming altar. The sermon wasn't Latin. It was code. Each verse led to locations, shipments, graveyards, arms caches, but the final line chilled Luca. "When the child of Venetian shadow drinks from the American Grail, the city shall drown again." Caterina stared. "You're the child, Luca." Edition 36, The Mirror Archive. Stockholm again, but not the same. Inside a Cold War bunker disguised as a museum archive, they found a mirror. Not a document. A mirror. Carved around the glass, he who sees the art, sees himself. Luca stared into it, and saw Venice burning. Himself holding the match. He recoiled. "I didn't." But Caterina had already backed away. "You will." Edition 37, The Cairo Extraction. Beneath the Egyptian Museum, where stolen antiquities are hidden by daylight, a Vatican rogue named Bellarmi handed over a reliquary laced with uranium, ivory, and a centuries-old papyrus. "This is Babel's contract," he said. "Signed by the same bloodline that founded the Schwartz Fund." And there, beside the seal, was a name, Esposito. Luca paled. "This can't be my family." Bellarmi smiled grimly. "You don't inherit art, Luca. You inherit curses. Edition 38, The Grigori Paradox. Zurich. Grigori was cornered in a snow-covered chalet. Or so Luca thought. Instead, he found 12 Grigori doubles, each surgically altered, trained, fluent, and deadly. They all turned in unison. You made this easy, Luca. Shots rang out. Caterina fell. Luca screamed. And from behind a shadowed wall, the real Grigori stepped forward, unarmed, laughing. I only need one Luca. Just not this one. Edition 39, The Map of Mourning. Tending Caterina's wounds in a Parisian crypt, Luca unfolded the black map stitched inside her coat lining. It didn't show streets. It showed veins, arterial paths across Europe and America, with marked pressure points. They're not heists. Caterina whispered. They're seizures. Grigori's bleeding the cultural soul of the West. Each red pin was a future catastrophe. And the final pin? Right over Florence. Edition 40, The Resurrection Gallery. Florence. The Uffizi Gallery closed to the public. Silent. Sanctified. Inside, each stolen piece returned, not to glass but to open air, candles lit beneath them. A resurrection of stolen beauty, and of something else. Allessandro stood before Most Larsen. Alive. Smiling. I lied, Luca. I was never dead. You were just never awake. Behind him, Grigori lit a match. The gallery shimmered with accelerants. Let it all burn. He whispered. Then we'll begin again. Edition 41. Edition 41, The Cradle of Glass. Rain laced the Venetian skyline in silver threads, veiling the domes of Santa Maria della Salute. Allessandro moved through the mist like a forgotten ghost, the cracked map of glass vaults in his coat's lining still wet with sea spray. The wind whispered Grigori's name over the canals, taunting, hollow, intimate. The cradle of glass wasn't a myth. It was real. A vault beneath the lagoon, predating Venice itself, used by those who trafficked secrets long before ink touched parchment. Luca waited near the gritty palace, face pale beneath a streetlight, holding a worn photograph, his mother, smiling beside a masked figure, Grigori. You were right, Luca murmured, passing Allessandro the evidence. He was in Rome in '97. My mother disappeared that same week. They said nothing more. The gondola would come soon. They had a tide to catch. Edition 42, Whispers from the Undercrypt. Beneath the Basilica of San Lorenzo in Florence, Grigori's voice echoed, soft, as if speaking to the bones. He stood before a ruined fresco, its pigment flaking like dead skin. The hidden corridor behind the altar groaned as the door slid open. Inside, a half-circle of robed men turned to him, their faces hidden. The manuscript has bled again, said the one in the center. And the American is alive. Grigori's smile was tired. He always was good at resurrection. And the girl? She dreams in reverse, Grigori replied cryptically. Which means we're running out of time. Edition 43, Dead Canals. Luca and Allessandro descended into the vault at low tide, their lanterns casting warped shadows. The glass sarcophagi stretched endlessly, sealed with strange sigils and Da Vinci's mirrored script. They found one cracked open, inside, a silver mask, and beneath it, a letter. To the last sons of light, when the cities bleed and the angels forget their names. You will decide whether memory is salvation or curse. Allessandro folded the parchment slowly. This wasn't meant for us. Luca ran a hand over the mask. Then who? The silence was their only answer. Edition 44, The Mirror Hour. At precisely 3:33 a.m., the girl called Isadora awoke gasping in a Berlin safe house, her pupils rimmed in gold. Dreams had come again, of fire, drowned cathedrals, and the black-eyed boy with no name. She reached for her journal, pages already torn by restless hands. Scribbles, numbers, 936, reversed and circled in red. In the corner of the room, her violin case sat untouched. But inside it, beneath the bowstring, lay the missing page of the blood manuscript. And it was beginning to fade. Edition 45, A Conductor of Bones. Grigori stood atop the Eiffel Tower, wind clawing at his coat. He had come to watch the storm. Beside him, a boy in his 20s lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "It's all collapsing, isn't it?" the boy said. Grigori nodded. "Good. It means the lie was too thin." He turned and handed the boy a small velvet box. Inside, a tooth, bronzed, ancient, inscribed with Hebrew. "Take it to Prague. They'll know what to do." Edition 46, Echoes of Red. Isadora played a forgotten melody on a rooftop in Vienna. Below, agents moved silently in the fog, searching the abandoned church for signs of her. As her bow met the string, the cathedral's glass windows cracked, shattering in harmonic resonance. A symbol lit up in the snow. The chalice of shadow. She lowered her violin and whispered, "He's near." Edition 47, The Archivist's Debt. Deep in a library beneath Jerusalem, Allessandro handed a key to the one-eyed archivist. "This unlocks the Chamber of Babel," he said. The archivist blinked slowly. "That place was buried in smoke." "Not smoke," Allessandro corrected. "Language." Outside, bells began to toll. Edition 48, Da Vinci's Prism. Inside a decommissioned observatory in Geneva, Luca aligned the three mirrors. A beam of light split, refracted, and hit a fresco. The wall melted away. Behind it, an ancient mural, the Madonna weeping over a city of fire, her tears turning into golden script. Beneath her feet, a familiar name was carved. Grigori. Edition 49, The Hour of Salt. The final coordinates brought them to an underground salt cathedral in Colombia. Rows of crucifixes carved from stone surrounded an altar of obsidian. Isadora stood waiting. "The chalice of light is dying." Allessandro unsheathed the second map. "Then we follow the one that burns." Edition 50, The First Sentence. Back in Venice, in a forgotten chamber behind the Libreria Acqua Alta, Grigori opened the last journal, the one no one dared read aloud. On the first page. "All stories are lies. But some are necessary." As he whispered the first sentence, the ink began to move. Edition 51, Ashes in the Water. The canal was quiet, eerily so. Luca stood beneath the Ponte dei Sospiri, the Bridge of Sighs, staring at the ripples below. The last time he'd been here, he was 17, running from a man whose name he never learned. Now, he was the man others ran from. The flash drive in his coat burned like a hot coal. Inside it, the original Interpol file, edited, redacted, and re-engineered by Allessandro himself. It told a different story now. The truth was malleable in their world. A shadow passed overhead. "I thought you might come," said a voice behind him. Luca didn't flinch. "I didn't come for nostalgia." "It's never nostalgia," said Allessandro, stepping into the moonlight. "It's debt. And we're both running a tab." Edition 52, Tessera. In a villa hidden among the crumbling outer islands, Mr. Grigori was playing chess with an old friend, a blind monk named Emiliano. They rarely spoke. Grigori moved his knight, then without glancing up, said, "They'll be in Tessera tomorrow." The monk responded, "And will you finally tell them about the manuscript?" "There is no manuscript," Grigori said softly. "You mean? There is no truth?" Grigori didn't reply. He merely stared out the window as the sun fell like a dying ember behind Venice's skyline. Edition 53, Black Lace Confessional. A fire broke out in the Santa Maria dei Miracoli church the night before Luca and Allessandro arrived. Only one thing had been taken, a page. Not a relic. Not a chalice. A single manuscript page, hidden in the confessional behind black lace. Luca ran his fingers over the ashes. He's ahead of us. Allessandro nodded. And if he has the page? Then we're already too late. Edition 54, Caravaggio's Secret. Underneath Rome, hidden inside an abandoned papal crypt, they found it, a fresco that didn't belong. Painted in the shadows, buried beneath centuries of dust, was a scene never recorded, Caravaggio's last work. And on the table of the painted scene was the Da Vinci Most Larsen. He knew. Allessandro whispered. He knew the painting was fake. Luca traced a finger along the image. Then what's real? Only the blood. Allessandro said. Edition 55, Penance. Mr. Grigori stood in a cathedral in Prague, alone except for a priest too old to remember his name. I've sinned. Grigori said in the confessional. We all have. Replied the priest. No. Grigori said, voice trembling. You don't understand. I've killed a city. And they still call me the architect. Edition 56, The Architect's Vault. Beneath the foundations of Vienna's oldest opera house, a vault opened with a whisper. Inside, blueprints. Not of buildings, but of people. Allessandro held up a file labeled, Project Marionetta. It's not just heists anymore. He said. Luca stared. It's manipulation. It's control. It's architecture of the mind. Edition 57, Refractions. Back in Venice, under a fractured chandelier in Ca' d'Oro, the three met again. Mr. Grigori. Luca. Allessandro. No more secrets. Grigori placed the blood-stained page on the table. There's one more. One more what? Luca asked. Edition. He whispered. The final one. Edition 58, Glass Cathedral. The glassworks of Murano had been silent for weeks. Everyone said the furnaces died. But inside one, hidden within the furnace shaft, was an orb, a glass sphere filled with ink. Allessandro cracked it open. A map poured out, swirling black and red. Not geography, history rewritten. The Cathedral of Mirrors in Lisbon was the last site. The key was memory. Edition 59, The Lisbon Paradox. Lisbon burned. Protests roared through the narrow streets while Luca slipped past the crowds into the forgotten chapel behind Geronimo's monastery. On the altar, the real Da Vinci Most Larsen. But it wasn't a painting. It was a mirror. And in it, Luca saw every version of himself. Every betrayal. Every lie. Every shot fired. Every soul buried. And in the center, Allessandro. Smiling. Edition 60, Exodus. In the ruins of the monastery, Luca and Allessandro faced each other. No guns. No knives. Just silence. The manuscript's complete. Allessandro said. Luca's eyes narrowed. And what does it say? That none of this matters. Allessandro whispered. Not art. Not truth. Only who controls the ending. Grigori, bleeding and dying nearby, laughed. Then let it be me. A single gunshot echoed. One walked away. Two stayed buried beneath the stones. The city forgot their names. But the shadows remembered.